I'm here with Luke Egley from Elastochem. How's it going, Luke?
I am living the dream.
Yeah. Director of Sales at Elastochem. He is out of Calgary, Alberta, Canada.
Yes, sir.
Lived there your whole life?
Most of my life. I was actually born in British Columbia, but we moved there moved to Calgary when I was about 11 or 12, and I've been there ever since.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. What got you into foam?
That's an interesting story because I actually started my career as a rehabilitation practitioner. So I worked with disabled kids. And
Really?
Yeah.
That is a very different profession.
Well, I worked
from where you're at now.
I went to Mount Royal College. I got a diploma in disability studies, and that kind of gave me the opportunity to work with some of the harder cases, right? So a lot of the kids that we took on were either palliative care or very severely disabled, and it was incredibly tough, right? Because they're kids, so
Tough just mentally for you to like be in it. And
there were a few that actually passed away
Mhm.
while in care, and that was the toughest part. So for me, I decided to make a career change. I didn't have the characteristics that you need in order to be able to do that long term. It hurt,
So does that make you a doctor?
No.
Okay.
No. I was in the side of the industry that dealt specifically with care. So we provided program development, medication administration, daily needs, that kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
How long did you do that for?
Boy, I was really young when I started. It was 5 or 6 years.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I got out of it when I was about 24 and started working as a heavy duty mechanic, trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. And that's how I ended up working on spray foam rigs and building stuff. And yeah.
So you got into foam, you got into the industry spraying, or no?
I got into the industry building and repairing rigs.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Wow.
Yeah. And the problem is with every industry, you can't build rigs each and every day, right? So I worked for a spray foam company. I built like 3 or 4 rigs for them and rebuilt another one. But in the interim, there was maintenance and that kind of thing. But I spent a lot of time just twiddling my thumbs. So the owner at the time said, "Hey, would you like to spray foam?" And I went, "Heck yeah, I'd like to do something different." So I was doing both of those for a bit, and then I was doing training, and then I became a supervisor, construction manager, operations manager, and just kind of worked my way up from there.
Wow. And how long ago was that?
Oh boy, I've been in the industry now. This is my 22nd year.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Early 2000s then.
Yeah. I've been doing it a minute.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, I love the industry. I love spraying, right? I'm one of the oddball guys who loved my education, but also wanted to be on the tools. So I kept up my education, got my degree, started a business, built that up to 11 rigs within 3 years, which was just crazy.
Yeah.
And then I went from there, did my MBA, and then started a consultancy. And yeah, it's been quite an interesting
trip.
Trip.
Going and going and going.
Yeah.
How long have you been with Elastochem?
I'm about 4 years in now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What do you do with them?
Well, I started out in technical sales. So for me, they originally it was going to be just a sales position, but I'm probably the worst salesman ever.
Oh, yeah, me too. Kind of.
But I really like working with the contractors. I really like working with sprayers. So my take on sales was to go out into the field and work with them, and that actually worked out great because I could do what I love at the same time as introduce them to our product lines and everything else. So that developed into me being the guy who puts on the certification trainings for Western Canada. And then from there, I moved up to the role of director.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jeez. Yeah. I feel like when it comes to sales, I've never been much of a salesperson either, because to be honest with you, I hate salespeople. I don't like that grimy, like let's say someone's trying to sell you like a steak knives or something. And well, don't you think it would be an investment if you had the sharpest knives? And if you never need knives for the rest of your life, how much money could we save? And like that sort of stuff. I'm like, get out of my house, or just let me get away from you.
I hear you.
You know what I mean? Like that sort of stuff. And so, but I'm kind of realizing in certain aspects of it, when you get into like real sales, not that low level stuff, it's really just people person. Are you a people person? Can you talk to people? Will people want to hang out with you for a little while? And if sometimes that's all it takes.
And communication is key. If you can get in there and you can talk the talk and walk the walk and, put boots on the ground, get in front of them, really provide them with the service of technical backup and building code and, dealing with all of the issues that these contractors don't want to have to manage, right? They don't want to have to go out to the building code officials and talk to them about the specifications. Mm-hmm. If we can do that for them, we are providing value add.
That's a service for sure.
Right?
Yeah. So last night we were talking a little bit. We were at the kids party.
Yeah.
The whatever. And you were telling me about a job where you had to do a bunch of tear out.
Oh boy.
Tell me about that. But start from the beginning. I know you told me some of it last night.
Well, at the beginning, I was looking at different spray foam suppliers and how I might get into that industry. But a very old friend of mine who was also my sales rep, like I followed him through multiple different suppliers just because he is a fantastic guy. His name's Len Simonowski, and he's not just knowledgeable, he's very personable.
Okay.
And he said to me, well, why don't we talk about you coming over to Elastochem? And I went, you know what? I've followed you around, man, and this sounds like the type of opportunity I'd be interested in. So we started down that path. And the first job that I did with Elastochem when I took the position was the worst job I've ever seen.
Oh, that was while you were with Elastochem.
It was the first job I did with them. So Adam Luffman from UFC called me up and he said, listen, I got a problem here. There is a job.
Wait, what do you mean by UFC?
Not Ultimate Fighting Championship. Urethane foam contractors. They're a third party.
Okay.
Yeah. So he called me up and he said, listen, I got an issue here. There's this job and it's horrible. And contractor out of Calgary had actually gone out and done an estimate to tear it out and redo it. And it needed to be torn out. It was awful. We went out to the front, to the back step, to the door, and there was a human footprint of ISO on the step. So the story behind that, which was hilarious in that I couldn't believe it happened. So it's not funny, but it was just crazy.
Yeah.
One of the helpers was in the shop and they're trying to keep the homeowner out. So they saw the homeowner come out to the shop.
So hold on a minute. The building is a house?
No, it was a shop.
It was a shop.
It was a shop.
Okay.
So they're trying to keep them out of the shop. And she goes running across the floor. And there's so much unmixed chemical on the floor from what these folks were doing in there that her shoe got stuck. And she hobbled out to the door to stop them and stepped on the patio stone with chemical all over her foot. And it left an imprint. It was wild.
Wow.
So
does the A bond with how did it stick so fast?
A is the reactive component in our system, right? So we've got a receptive component, which is the polyol, the B side.
Yeah.
And then we have the A side, which is the reactive. This stuff hits and reacts and chemically bonds, right? So yeah, it was one of the most outrageous safety infractions I've ever seen, right? Because ISO it's got some safety concerns. You have to be careful with
Absolutely.
it, right?
Oh yeah.
And
poison.
Anyway, so the community there was the I think it was like the CBS Marketplace a few years ago where the roof in Ontario had been sprayed poorly and it blew up on the news and the industry took a big hit at that point. So we had a dozen contractors out of They came in from Edmonton, from Lethbridge, from a whole bunch of them from Calgary, like surrounding areas. They all came because of that to come and rectify this situation, because it had already hit the news, and they had run, I think they ran it on CTV or something. Anyways, it was going to blow up and be bad. So we knew, at least I thought, the best way to rectify this, because for every negative, you got to get 50 positive to counter it, right?
For sure. Yeah.
So I thought, we're going to run all the media on this. We are going to talk to the news. We are going to, and all of these contractors, competitors came together, donated their time. We had suppliers come out, donate chemical. We had mechanical suppliers, our equipment suppliers come out and let us use, like, they had this new blaster, sandblasting setup, so that we could clean the concrete. And it was incredible. It was incredible. They were putting on lunches, and took us about 5 days to do it. But the only reason we were able to is because so many people came together to make sure that it did not damage our industry again.
So this is a pretty big building.
It was a big shop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like in the shop for like a manufacturing shop.
No, not that big. No, this was on a person's property. This was personal,
like a pole barn,
basically.
Something like that, like a big pole barn or something.
Exactly. And not even a big one, honestly.
Oh, really?
A $70,000. The problem with spray foam is that when it goes in, it's permanent.
Yeah.
So taking it out is a headache. It is very, very difficult to do.
For sure.
Yeah.
So what was it about the foam? Shrinking or off ratio or both? Or what was it that was so bad?
The story was, this was an uncertified contractor. The contractor had purchased, and we knew what the chemical was because they left the drums on the site.
That's helpful.
Not for the supplier, at least but yeah, they left the drums on the site. But what they did was they rented like a Chinese built rig that they couldn't read the instructions to.
Oh my Lord.
So at the end of the first day, and this is a story, so I'm hearing this secondhand, but at the end of the first day, the gun wouldn't work anymore. So what they did was they took duct tape and wrapped it around the whip, opened up the valves, and just started.
No way.
Yeah. So
they weren't even spraying out of a gun. They were just spraying straight out of the hose.
Straight out of the hose. It was a mess. It was the worst job I've ever seen. Yeah. It looked like melting candle wax. Yeah. It was awful.
Whoa. I had never heard a story like that before.
Well, and I mean, the nice thing was working with our third party, working with Adam. He was so great because we would get through a portion of it and then he'd come out and inspect it, make sure things were good.
Yeah.
Right. Before we did anything else. So the process from a project management perspective was very, very well planned. Everybody worked really well together and we just got it knocked out. And we did it really quickly. We posted media after media after media. The guys over at Beyond Foam, which is a company out of Calgary, they brought in their media people and did a whole like montage of videos. It was fantastic.
Yeah, try to heal that wound a little bit.
And they did. We really did, because it never went anywhere, right? And that's the beauty of it. We don't want people to know about it. Well, because
they can go online for years, and just continue to complain about spray foam.
Absolutely. And I mean, do we really need another mark like that in our industry? And I say absolutely not.
Yeah. I mean, we've had a few of those in the States as well.
Of course.
And it's kind of nice that I haven't had a chance yet. I think on the next one, I'm going to try to get out. The next time that there's one of those, I'm going to really try to get out because just, do my part and hang out with some, fellow industry professionals and all that sort of thing. But yeah, it's good that we are, I hope it lasts forever, but I know it might not, probably won't. The fact that we all kind of get together and fix mistakes.
I don't know. I think it will last forever. And here's the truth. I mean, I've been in this industry for plus 20 years, and the people that I knew back then, I still work with today. Right. So it's more family than it is, industry. And lots of industry have competitors where they just won't work together.
Right.
But in our industry, there has been, unfortunately, a lack of education around application, around the equipment, and that sort of thing. So they rely on each other, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I used to call up my competitors all the time. We used to, swap materials if somebody was short. We used to have equipment that would go down, and we would, call them up. Hey, do you have a stick pump? My gun just blew up. Do you have another gun that I could borrow? And yeah, we'd work together, and off you go.
Yeah, no, I guess the way I feel is I hope it lasts forever. But the reason that I think it might not is because I think eventually spray foam is going to be something that is most used everywhere, just like concrete or just like siding or just like framing or electrical or plumbing or whatever. When it gets to that point to where it's just another one of the trades. Right now, it's like this infancy. We're all trying to make our way and kind of do it together. And there's that brotherhood of that and sisterhood of that. And I'm just kind of going, it's going to get ruined eventually, I think. But hopefully it's not for a very long time, or maybe it never will happen. Hopefully we could all, try to make sure that it doesn't happen. But we're going to retire too. So
it's a relevant point. It absolutely is. And unfortunately, all industries grow up, and we have some growing up to do yet, for sure. We've managed to improve, but we still have quite a long way to go.
Yeah.
And those types
we might as well enjoy this awesomeness while it's here, for sure.
Yeah. But those types of developments take time, right? I mean, I've worked on the educational side as well. I got to do a little chat this morning at the table discussions, and talk to the panel about education and where that's going. And what we're hearing from contractors is we want to be certified. We want to have a system in place that will provide us with the training we need to be professional and efficient in our industry.
Yeah. I was talking about that on the last podcast too. It was a pretty hot subject, and it seems like that's still a really hot subject. I remember 2 years ago, the tornado year. I mean, that was something we talked about during that panel discussion on that too, is certification, training, more regulation, So yeah, like I said on the last one, I'm just really worried that the government's going to take it over and ruin it. That's just my worry. That's my only worry, really. That's it. Other than that, I think it's great.
As a guy who comes from Canada, I've already been through that, been in that for a long time. And quite frankly, I don't find that the government has ruined the industry, probably not put enough regulation in place.
Really?
Right. And not provided enough support for the development and education of applicators. If they were to get behind that and provide incentives for the up and coming generation to get into our industry and be professionals at what we do, I think we'd move forward.
Yeah.
I mean, the government can mess things up. Don't get me wrong. They do that really well. But there are some aspects of it where they either overdo or they significantly underdo. And in a lot of aspects, that's happening in Canada.
Yeah. What are some differences, regulation differences from Canada and the US?
Well, everybody in Canada has to be certified to spray.
And how do you do that?
We as a supplier, we provide training, and then we have a third party
suppliers provide the training.
QAP that comes in and does the testing, right? We can't proctor exams ourselves, so they proctor the exams, they provide the certification, and each and every supplier has to have a certification for that brand of foam.
So if you're going to change foams, you got to get recertified with that brand.
Absolutely.
And so, okay, let's say you're on the West Coast. You're out near the west side of Canada.
Yep.
If I'm on the east side and I'm like, hey guys, I think I want to move to Elastochem. How does that work? Do you fly me out, or do I fly myself out, or just you come out to me, or how do I get certified, or is it all online?
The company is across Canada. Our plant is in Ontario.
Yeah.
So I'm just in Western Canada, but I have,
that's right.
Yeah. I have warehouses. I have sales reps in each province. I've got we're covered. And so it's the same for Eastern.
So if I'm, whatever, I mean, I'm in Nowheresville, British Columbia.
Right.
And I'm like, hey, so what happens? How do I get certified with Elastochem?
Good question. I had a guy contact me last week and say, listen, I bought a used rig from one of your contractors. He said that I need to talk to you about certification.
Mm-hmm.
So I reached out to my contractors in BC and Alberta, and we just said, okay, who needs to be certified? We get them all pooling their guys that need to get it done. And I'll have a certification course going in about 3 weeks.
At what location?
In Calgary.
At where you're at.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So you've got and it's hands-on as well as book.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I take a different perspective on it from the certification side, maybe than some other certification instructors, in that yes, the theory is important. It is, absolutely. You have to know what the system is, where does it come from, how does it react? Here's some basic building science principles. How do you deal with safety? And, how do you manage your chemical? That's really important stuff. Then when we get into the equipment side, I'm like, if you guys can't take apart your transfer pump and understand how it works and why it does what it does, how are you ever going to troubleshoot it?
Yeah.
So I bring in a transfer pump and we take it apart. And then I go through the gun. Here's how you take it apart and here's how you put it back together properly, right? And then I'll get into field testing. How do you do a density? Why do we do densities? And then we'll do a density. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then we go out in the field and do the field application. And that's when UFC comes in and they bring somebody out. They'll do the written test. Then we'll go out to a job site typically, or sometimes they'll set up a wall in a warehouse if they're able, and we'll do the spray application. But they have to do the application. They have to prove competency, and then they have to do a density and fill out a daily work record.
Yeah, that's a very important thing up there. I mean, density test is important anywhere, but it seems like it's kind of held to a higher standard up there. Maybe that's my imagination. I don't know.
I don't think so.
Oh.
I think that without somebody, looking over your shoulder and making sure that gets done, it's something that the applicators, they're applicators. They don't want to do paperwork, but it's a really critical piece because it provides you with a document. It's kind of like your field level hazard assessment. The reason that you do those is not just for safety, but it also provides you a record of what you did on that day that you can then produce later if there's an incident, right? So it's a cover your butt scenario, right? And daily work records are the same.
Definitely, that's something that should be always done.
Yeah, best practice, right? I mean, really, yes, it's paperwork, but it's a good piece of paperwork for the installers to make sure that if somebody calls into question what they've done, they can provide some form of record that states, I did this right.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about Luke.
Okay.
What did you do as a kid?
As a kid, I grew up in a small town called Horsefly. Horsefly. Yeah.
Okay.
Spent most of my childhood there. It was a small town, right? So,
and that was what province?
BC and British Columbia. Yeah.
Where are you at now? What's weird? I'll just say one thing.
Yeah.
You guys, I've heard this before. You guys all know like our states and everything, and we don't really know yours. We know the names, but we don't know which ones were. Anyway, sorry.
So if you look the farthest west you can.
Yeah. Like BC above Washington.
BC is that end of our country.
Between like Washington, Canada. Yeah.
Alaska.
That's what I meant. Yeah. That's what I meant to say. Yeah.
So I grew up there. It was a pretty simple life, a lot of farm life, a lot of just, day-to-day stuff. But I grew up in the sticks. Yeah. And then I moved to Calgary, which was an absolute culture shock.
Is Calgary the one right east of it?
Calgary's
Calgary's a city.
Is a city.
I'm thinking
Calgary's quite a ways away. Actually, I believe we were 8-9 hours away.
Calgary's in British Columbia.
It's in Alberta. Yeah.
Calgary's in Alberta.
Yeah, British Columbia, that's Horsefly, and Calgary is in Alberta.
Okay.
So same kind of Western mentality. It's very Western mentality up in Alberta.
What's that? What's Western mentality? Like liberal, you mean?
I mean, we kind of like to roll to the beat of our own drum.
Okay.
We are very, hardworking. It's a working province for sure.
Yep.
and we are stubborn, and we don't like to be told what to do, but a good group of people who, they put their life into their livelihoods and their families, and that's the basic guideline for how we live and how we work.
Yeah. There's a lot of that in certain more. There's areas in the U.S. that are like that, and some that are not.
Of course.
Yeah.
So
high school. How many kids in your high school? How many kids you graduate with?
Oh, I had lots of kids in my high school. I came up, because I came up in Calgary. It was a city high school. It was called Bishop Grandin, and then, of course, all of the horrible findings at the residential schools and everything else. So they recently changed the name, because I guess Bishop Grandin was involved in the residential schools at some point. But
wait, fill me in. I don't have a clue what you're talking about.
Yeah, they found a bunch of children's bodies at these school sites, these residential school sites.
I think I remember hearing about that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Like a couple years ago, that was all over.
Very big thing. Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about that. Cause I heard about this. Is it was just in this place, or was it like all over, like widespread all over Canada?
They started finding buried bodies in a bunch of different locations that were tied to the residential school system. And the freaky part was Okanagan College. I developed the residential insulator technician program for them, and I was putting it on in conjunction with TRU, which is the Thompson River University in Kamloops. And they were working with the First Nations tribe at the time. So I did some of my training at the university, and the other part of the training was at the residential school.
What's a residential school? Is that like a public school? Like just Canada version?
Not at all. No, the residential school was and I'm not a historian, so this is my understanding of it. But the residential school, they actually took children from the Native families and they tried to convert them to Catholicism, I believe.
Oh.
So, yeah, they were taken away from their families, and there was all kinds of horrible stories about abuse and neglect. And
like what time period are we talking? This was happening.
The residential schools were still in play, I believe, like 20 years ago. So, it's not that long ago.
Yikes!
Very yikes. Yeah.
And so they were taking these kids, and they were saying they were converting them, and maybe some of them they were, and probably the bad kids were just getting axed.
I think everybody has an opinion on it. And my opinion is, because I grew up in Catholic schools and that sort of thing, I think that that there is some corruption in every organization that is that powerful. And unfortunately, there was liberties taken, and those liberties were horrific.
Wow. So there was one right in your hometown.
I found out after we had put the program on, shortly after COVID was full blown. We managed to get the program done at the residential school, and I went back to Calgary. I started with Elastochem, and then it shows up on the news that they found hundreds of bodies on the school site. And it just kind of blew my mind, because, there had been stories, and there had been, rumors and suggestions and everything else. But then it came to light, and all these bodies were found, and it was just like, oh my goodness.
That is shocking.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's terrible.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. Did you go to college?
Yeah. I've been to Mount Royal College. I went to DeVry.
Oh, yeah, you did say that. Of course, you had to go to college to do your thing.
Yeah, you got my business degree at DeVry, and then I completed my MBA at Queen's University.
Nice.
Yeah.
Probably no military.
No military. No.
You ever get married? You're married now?
I'm not married now, but I was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kids?
I have 2 kids. I have a 12-year-old and a 16-year-old. She just turned 16.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Just turned 16.
Yeah.
Is that the driving age in Canada too?
Yes. July 31st, she actually turned 16. So
a couple days.
Yeah.
A few days.
Bought her a car, and it's a standard because nobody knows how to drive standard anymore. But she wanted to. She's really a fantastic kid. So worth the investment. And they're great.
I'm trying to think, like, you can't still buy new car standard, can you? Is
Depends.
it new?
No, it's a 2012 Mazda 2. So I wanted to get her something that was cost effective for purchase, obviously. I mean, I'm buying it. So, but it had to be cost efficient so that she could afford to drive it.
Of course.
And so I got her a 2012 that had less than 100,000 K. So it was a good starter car.
Yeah. And she can't be on her phone when she's shifting gears.
Yes. I like that very much. Yeah.
So do you have custody? How much custody do you have?
Shared.
Oh,
yeah. 50-50.
Nice. Yeah. That's awesome. And then your ex lives in the same town?
Lives in the same city. Yep.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So you could see him pretty much whenever you really want to or need to or whatever.
Not as much as I'd like, but I don't think anybody sees their 16-year-old kid as much as they'd like.
Well, that's true. I don't have one of those yet, but I'll live that life.
Yeah.
In a handful of years.
Well, they're very good at telling you what to do. And
they're smarter than you too, right?
They are smarter than you, but they think they know absolutely everything. So there is that aspect of it. And that starts at 12. So my 12-year-old boy, he's now at that stage, and he's moving into the more progressive, don't tell me what to do, I already know everything stage. Which is fantastic.
My son is 10. And he's that way.
Yeah.
He's going to be a tough one. He is. He's a great kid, but man, he is going to be a tough one. So anyway, that's funny. Let's get to some fast questions here.
Hit me with it.
And actually, they don't have to be fast. Sometimes they actually just spur on the next thing to talk about, and it's 10 minutes. So I usually do a food one first. So I'm going to do, what's your favorite ethnic food?
I like pho.
What?
I love it. Absolutely love it. That and sushi.
Pho?
Yeah.
I never heard of that.
Well, it's pronounced, or it's spelt pho, but
F-O.
Pho is how you pronounce it. So
F-O?
No, it's P-H-O.
Oh. Yeah, that sounds like Korean or something.
Vietnamese.
Oh, it is?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, that makes sense then. Okay. I've never heard that before. I'm not that cultured. I'm like Italian and Mexican and like, whatever's here in the States.
All the good real food.
All the stuff that's been Americanized, Yeah, that's funny. So pho, and what was the other one?
Sushi. I love sushi. Yeah.
Nah, I'm not big into seafood.
No.
In fact, I wanted to talk to about on this podcast. Anybody out there listening? Some of these podcasts, I kind of tell people like, hey, if you've got your favorite thing, food related, whether it doesn't have to be food related, but it makes the most sense. Whether it's like Vinny brought some jerky, James brought some craft beer.
Nice.
And I was thinking just anything, I don't care. I talk to them. I don't care if it's your grandma's cookie recipe or, that sort of thing. Just bring something in. We'll taste test it on the episode and just have fun with it. Right. But I wanted to make sure everybody knew, do not ever bring me salmon. Mm-hmm. Do not ever bring me that junk. No, I'm just kidding. A lot of people love salmon and that's cool, but I can't stand it. I don't care how you make it. I don't care how you dry it, whatever. Don't ever bring me salmon. And now someone will do it just to have fun. But anyway,
I grew up hunting.
That's the only thing I don't like.
I grew up hunting and I still hunt. And so, I mean, we always have venison, period. And I grew up on it. So for me, the different food is really related to the fact that I grew up on wild food.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
So what was that? What kind of wild? Like elk?
Moose, deer, bear. Yeah, absolutely.
You see moose quite a bit where you're at?
In BC, we did, right? So where I grew up as a kid, there was lots of moose everywhere. Little more difficult for us, at least in the location I'm at now, to get moose, but you can definitely get elk. There are big herds of elk up there.
Yeah. A lot of meat. They're pretty big. I mean, they are big. At least twice the size of a deer, right?
I got 2 freezers absolutely full.
And you love it? Or is it just like you like it, but it's available?
It's a staple, right? So do I love it? I love steak, but if I ate steak every day, might not be my favorite
that's
food.
true.
Yeah.
So would you rather have a steak, like a cow steak, or an elk steak? Like, let's just elk, really?
Hands down.
And it's the taste.
I just enjoy it more.
Okay.
For me, it's like a taste of home, right?
Yeah. So. Okay. Yeah. Little nostalgic and all that.
Yeah.
I hear you. How many SBA conventions have you attended? That can't be funny. How is that a funny question?
Well, I've been to a lot.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if I could honestly answer that. There's been an awful lot.
Oh, really? So many that you lost count. Wow,
That's pretty
that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean, I still have my backpack from the Fire and Ice conference with Icing that I did years and years and years ago. I've got Kafka plaques that I picked up at conferences. I've been in the industry a minute. I've worked with just about every supplier. And so, I don't know if I can answer that, honestly.
Yeah, that's still an answer. So that's a good enough answer for me. What's the coolest thing you ever sprayed?
The Taj Mahal.
What? The Taj Mahal?
That's what we called it.
That's what you called it. Okay, it's a big difference from. No, it's a good question.
It was an outhouse.
Answer. It was an outhouse.
It was an outhouse. Yeah, it was the craziest, weirdest thing.
Yeah.
Friend of mine, he bought a piece of property, and my sales manager, he was like their best friends. So he asked him to come out and build this outhouse. Well, he used to build fine luxury homes. So it took him 3 months to build the Taj Mahal.
House.
This thing was insane. And then they called me up and they're like, well, do you want to spray foam it? And I'm like, you want me to spray foam your outhouse? Like, really?
Not really. And he's like, outhouse.
He's like, absolutely. So we went out there and we spray foamed it. And he's like, well, I want to pay you for it. And I'm like, no, this is a gimme. And he's like, well, I appreciate that, but I want to give you something. So he gave us this off-road go-kart, and I still have it today. It is the best, funnest little rig. And me and my kids have replaced the motors on it. And,
I've seen those around. It's like pipe welds and like little Briggs Strattons or whatever.
Absolutely.
Predator or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are pretty cool. So what was it? What was it? It was just it was. How can an outhouse be that impressive that it takes him that long? Like, is it just big?
He took old farm wood and then he planed it, resized it. Each and every board was done to a specific spec. Like, he is just the most detailed person you've ever met in your life. Oh. So this thing was dimensionally perfect. And it was larger than your average outhouse, but it had the proper venting. They put in a heater. There was some storage, and there was cubbies, and there was this and that and the other. So it was, you could have lived in the bloody thing. It was unreal.
Why would anybody have an outhouse today? What's the reason behind that?
So he bought like this huge property up on the Highwood River, up in High River in Alberta. And it was like he was going into retirement. And so he wanted this beautiful property for his family, kind of a legacy property. So took the family out there, and his wife said, I'm not coming back because I don't want to pee in the woods. So get some sort of facilities out here, or I'm not coming back. So
you can't have indoor.
It was so huge and so far away from everybody that getting utilities into it would have been a fantastic project. It was.
I see.
Yeah.
So there's no water at the place.
The river. Yeah.
You can't even get piped in water. You can't make a well. Oh, there's no electric for a well. No electric for a well, so you can't get water. There's no way of getting water in the
100 acres, right? Used to be farmland that they graze cattle on.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. You ever had a major medical or non-medical emergency on the job?
I'm a type 1 diabetic, so absolutely.
Oh, you are? What's type 1 mean?
Type 1 means that I am insulin dependent. So,
you got to give yourself a shot every day?
Insulin pump.
Oh,
Yeah.
how does it get in? Do you have like a IV or something going on
Yeah,
there?
there's a tube that goes up from the insulin pump, and it puts insulin into my subcutaneous tissue all day long.
Man, you were
Yeah.
always like that?
No, I was diagnosed when I was 24, so I was already, you know, working my butt off, and yeah, that was a struggle because they diagnosed me with a type of diabetes called labile or fragile diabetes, where it is much more difficult to control. And so I suffered from blood sugar lows for a long time, and it
So you
made
just
it.
get to eat candy all the time? I mean, I'm not.
It's not
Is that
wrong.
what happened?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
just
Because I mean,
always eating
I'm running around
sugar.
like a chicken with my head chopped off, right? So I'm going a million miles an hour, and keeping track of where my blood sugar was not the highest priority on my list. So yeah,
Sure, of course, at that age especially.
yeah.
Wow. So then what was the emergency then?
A
I
very
mean,
severe
or
low blood sugar. Yeah.
so how did you have to like jump in your car and go somewhere, or what do you
No,
do?
no,
You just
no.
have to.
Somebody would have to call and bring an ambulance up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that happened on more than one occasion?
Uh, on my work sites, I had 3 incidents that were severe. One had nothing to do with my diabetes. Actually, I was spraying on a job site, and I got called out to head over to another job. And I hopped in my pickup truck, and I passed out and went through a wooden fence, put a pole right through the door behind me, missed me by like 8 inches.
Yikes.
So there was that one. That was a bad one. And then I had another one where I just sat down and I couldn't think, couldn't function. So they called the ambulance out, and they gave me um, they had like this tube paste with high glucose, and they give that to me and bring me back up. But yeah, so not a huge amount of incidents, but there were a couple.
So is it a little more just random, or is it like days that you're just working way hard, way too hard, or like just it just happens when it happens?
No, it's always related to physical activity, for sure.
So hot
right?
days,
Hot days,
you're pushing it a little too hard. You want trying to get that last little bit in or something like that.
Always. Yep.
I see. All right. Are you a toy guy? Are you like a toy guy? All right. Well, what's your next toy, or what do you have now?
I have an Indian
motorcycle.
Yeah, I have I love my motorbike. Yeah. Yeah. I actually am part of a motorcycle club in Alberta that helps children that are abused. So that is not just a hobby, it's a passion.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So you guys meet like once a month or every couple of weeks, or
we actually have a meeting this weekend.
Oh, do you?
Yeah,
You're gonna try to get to it?
Teams.
Oh,
Yeah.
like you're talking about like Apple. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by
Microsoft Teams?
Oh, okay.
Teams meeting. Yeah.
You're gonna meet online.
Yeah. I'll pipe myself in there, and
yeah,
we do training, and we do lots of organizational discussions, and yeah, it's a wonderful group of people that really, really care about kids, and we get to ride motorcycles. So what could be better than that, right?
yeah. That's one way to do it.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. How often do you go riding with you go riding with these guys too, I'm guessing?
Yeah, we actually recently had our 100-mile, which is just a 100-mile run. I think we had 30 bikes. A couple weeks ago, did a run out to Saskatoon, and it was 13 hours on the bike, so straight out and back. But yeah, we get together and we ride, do events, car shows, all kinds of stuff.
I bet you got a bunch of really awesome roads to ride in the summertime up there.
Oh heck yeah!
You got a lot of country. You got you guys don't use salt there. Salt doesn't really work where you're at for the roads.
Yeah.
Oh, it does? You do use salt? Oh, okay.
Not as much as Eastern Canada. Their cars are all rotted, but we do.
You got some decent roads. You got to find the decent roads, or are they pretty much everywhere?
No, I think you have to find them.
Okay.
Right. And they're close, which is nice, but you do need to know where to go.
Yeah, which I'm sure you do.
I've done it a few times. Yeah, for sure.
So Indian, huh? Okay. Indian's American, Harley's American,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't get along.
Sure they do. They never used to, but they do now.
Because they used to be both. They were both a World War II bike. Like they were using them both. They were both up and coming. Like, we're going to use you, or we're going to use you. We're not sure yet. We'll just use both of you for a while. And then they kind of, so they kind of got a rivalry because of
course,
early rivalry back in the 40s. So yeah, that's,
you know what, Harley guys are Harley guys, Indian guys are Indian guys. And the biker community tends to be very, very tight knit. So, I mean, as long as you're on two wheels, if you got a problem,
right.
if you have a car problem, people will just pass you. If you're on a motorcycle and you have a problem, a biker will stop.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. There's that brotherhood.
Yeah. Camaraderie for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Well, cool. Let's do a trip one. Where's the furthest you've traveled from home?
I've been to Europe many, many times.
Really?
Oh, yes.
Where?
Yeah. Well, I did a practicum for my disability studies. I spent 5 weeks in Winchester at the university, and then we traveled all over.
Yeah.
Doing social marketing program development and that sort of thing, which is, I mean, it's kind of boring, but the ability to travel out there to, go down to London and, experience Piccadilly Circus and that kind of thing was incredible.
What's Piccadilly? I mean, I don't know anything about Piccadilly Circus.
It's a big square in London. And the weirdest thing is you go down there and you're walking around and nobody will look at you. Everybody has this, they'll look just above your head.
Why?
I don't know. It was a weird experience.
Nobody wants to be seen there or something?
They don't want interaction. They just want to get to wherever they're going and do their own thing. But yeah, it was a weird
So is it a circus at all?
No, it's just a place.
Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah.
You know what I do know about Piccadilly Circus? There's at the gas stations, they got Piccadilly pizza.
Well.
Not that I get it, because
I'll have to try that sometime.
Oh, speaking of gas station pizza, though, I got a quick story everybody needs to hear. If you ever get pizza, it doesn't matter if it's a gas station. It doesn't matter if it's at a buffet or whatever. One thing I've learned in the last few years, there's something I came up with. It's called a shine test. A shine test. Because I've gotten a lot of pizza that's just like, what the heck did you sell me this for? It's like 8 hours old or whatever. You can look at a pizza, and if it's matte, it's flat matte color, like they're not color, but shine, there's no shine to it. It's old, leave it alone.
Yeah.
If it's got some shine to it, it's fresh. The oils are still, you know what I mean? So anyway,
I'm going to use that.
Yeah,
just so you know.
You should. You definitely should. I went to a place one time that had like pizza by the slice, lunchtime, and it was a little late for lunch. It was like 2:00 or something. And I was like, man, I don't know if I should go there. And I walk in there and I go, hey, you got any pizza by the slice still? And he's like, oh yeah. And he grabs some piece off the like little circle, that cabinet that the pizza. He grabs some, throws it in some quick heater, and he gave it to me. And I was like, dude, why didn't you just tell me? Like, that was dry. It was nasty. And I'm like, why didn't you just tell me? Like, no, I got this. If you want it, I'll give it to you half off. But he didn't. He acted like it was just, he sold it for me full price. I'm like, I'm never coming back here. So anyway.
Pizza wisdom.
Yeah, pizza wisdom. That's what you learn being a fat guy. Yeah. What's the worst job you ever had?
Wow. Probably the first job I had in the industry, unfortunately.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. The reason that I didn't switch after I completed my degree was literally because the owner in the industry had told me that I would never make it in the industry and that I should never do it.
Why did you say that?
And not
was there like something that happened that made him?
No. He was like, oh, I'm so glad you finished your degree, but don't ever try and come into this industry because you will not make it. And so 3 weeks later, I had purchased a spray foam rig and I was up and running.
Is that part of the reason we're here today? Because of that guy?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He is the reason. 100%.
Yeah. It's nice to shut people up sometimes. I've had some of those.
Well, I mean, it went from 1 rig to 11 rigs in 4 years. So you'd be amazed what the power of words.
Do you ever have a chance to rub it in his face?
I don't like to do that, right? Like, I'm not about that.
Does he
I'm
know?
about,
He knows where you're at, though.
He, of course,
Today.
actually, but spoke to him last year. So,
Oh.
yeah, I mean, the old wounds do tend to fester, but I mean, after time, it softens the pain, a little bit, and yeah, no, it's motivating.
It's
very
absolutely motivating.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. All right, let's do one more. Simple one. If you're on a short road trip by yourself, what are you listening to?
Audiobooks.
Yeah? Audiobooks.
I am a nerd. Lots of people, I don't know, maybe because I ride motorcycles, I think like I'm kind of rough and tough. I'm a nerd. I'm a huge nerd. I like books. I like information. I like to get lost in fantasy or fiction or whatever. It's just part of my personality.
Yeah.
I'm not as in tune with the music industry like a lot of people get into that side of it, and they have their music and that's their most intense dive when they get on job sites. They put in their music or put on their music and they go. For me, it just was never a driver. I like to learn.
Yeah. I feel that way more and more as I get older too. I was talking the other night. I don't know. Anyway, it's the only music I like is old music. Well, and some very, very small amount of new music, but the old music I've heard 1,000 times, and I'm not learning anything. It's helping me maybe, get some spraying done or something like that. But
so I do have an interesting story, and this is the gentleman is one of the most fantastic sprayers I've ever worked with.
Okay.
Right. He was born with only one functioning hand. So when I was training with him, I was always amazed at just how good he was, because he was fantastic. He was really a great sprayer, and his rig was always meticulous. All of his tools were where they're supposed to be, and he was just a good operator.
He cared.
But he also liked to sing Britney Spears at the top of his lungs.
Oh.
So when I was training with him, I think that's part of the reason I don't listen to music at work, because I do not really love Britney Spears. And
yeah, I don't either.
He had an okay voice, but you can have an okay voice and not be good at singing Britney Spears. Okay. So, and that's where he was
you're not gonna hit her notes or make it sound that as good as she does. So that's funny though.
It was terrible. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's end this thing. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching on YouTube. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to go to, you can like us on the Facebook page, and we got a website now. It's foamandfriends.com. Catch you next time. Thanks for watching and listening. Bye.